Springfield Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for June 18th is called to order. Please stand. We'll have the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started tonight, I want to send my sympathy, and I know everyone else sitting up here wants to send sympathy to Alderman Tim Harris, our Vice Mayor. His brother passed away today, and we are so sorry. Please keep him and all the family in your prayers. They have not finalized the funeral arrangements yet. We will be sending out an email, I'm sure. Okay. 1.2, the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen held on May 21st, 2019. Are there any corrections? No corrections? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, motion. I'm just trying to hurry up.
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. 1.3 is our public hearing. If you would like to speak to any of the following public hearings, please come to the mic. You have 2 minutes to speak and state your name. Our first public hearing will be Ordinance 19-08, an ordinance rezoning 10 parcels located in the 9th Civil District on North Main Street, North Willow Street, and 4th Avenue East from the residential to core commercial. If anyone would like to speak, please come to the mic. This public hearing is closed. Ordinance 19-09, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2019's annual budget for the City of Springfield by amending certain general funds operating budgets. If you'd like to speak, please come to the mic. This public hearing is closed. Ordinance 19-10, an ordinance adopting the annual budget and the tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. If you'd like to speak, please come to the mic. Public hearing is closed. Ordinance 19-11, an ordinance rescinding Ordinance 18-14 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield water system. If you'd like to speak, please come to the mic. Public hearing is closed. Ordinance 19-12, an ordinance rescinding Ordinance 17-08 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield wastewater system. If you'd like to speak, please come to the mic. Seeing no one coming forward, the public hearing is closed. Ordinance 19-13, an ordinance setting the new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield stormwater system. If you'd like to speak, please come to the mic. This public hearing is closed. Ordinance 19-14, an ordinance amending the schedule of fees and charges for play at the Legacy Golf Course by rescinding Ordinance 18-07 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees. If you'd like to speak, please come to the mic. The public hearing is closed. Ordinance 19-15, an ordinance amending the City of Springfield Department of Utility Service practice policies. If you'd like to speak, please come to the mic. Seeing no one coming forward, the public hearing is closed. We'll move on to our legislative portion of our agenda. 2.1. Discuss and possible take action on Ordinance 19-08 on a second reading. An ordinance rezoning 10 parcels located in the 9th Civil District on North Main Street, North Willow Street, and 4th Avenue East from residential to core commercial. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Questions, gentlemen? Comments? No comments? Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you. 2.2, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-09 on a second reading. An ordinance amending the fiscal year 2019's annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending certain general fund operating budgets. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. This is our second reading. Are there any discussion? No discussion? Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you. 2.3, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-10 on a second reading. An ordinance adopting the annual budget and the tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Our city manager, Ms. Gina Holt.
Okay, last month, the board passed one amendment to the budget, and that was to approve changing, you're gonna have to excuse me, I still don't have a voice, a public affairs coordinator position from a 6-month to a full year. So you've already approved that, and the budget was amended, the one you have in front of you. There are 3 other amendments that the board needs to make tonight. The first one, and I don't know if they need to be done separately, they probably do. The first one is the RTA bus service support line item has $10,000 in it. The contract's actually $15,000, so that needs to be increased $5,000. The next amendment is the dispatch services. The amount went down. Originally, they said that our percentage of calls was 23%, and now it's 21.8%. So that represents a decrease of $18,019. So $18,019. And the third amendment regards the library. And Mayor Vogel and I met with Chris Hall, the director of the library, who's in the room, to go over their request. And as you all know, it was a pretty big increase this year. So after meeting with her, we came up with a negotiated amount to decrease it by $14,600. And that's $14,600 for the city and $14,600 for the county. So when you add all of those together, including the public affairs position, which was $31,000 increase that you've already done, with the $5,000, the $18,000 decrease, and the $14,000 decrease, the net increase for all of that is only $3,381. I mean, $3,381. So I'm just asking that you all would do these amendments, and I guess individually. So the first one would be the $5,000 for the RTA bus service.
Jane, usually when we talk about RTA, we've been getting the stats so that we can compare the ridership to the years previous. You're asking us to approve money, we haven't seen any facts and figures. I don't know whether more riders, less riders.
I think it's about the same, and I actually do have those, and I'll send those to you. And I'm sorry, I should have done that, but I didn't get a chance to. But I will send those to you. But in years past, we've been paying $48,000 a year for quite a few years. We went down to $10,000 last year, maybe the year before, and so now it's 15.
So now you want to pay 15.
$15,000 total.
Okay. Other questions for Ms. Holt?
Motion now.
Okay. What is your motion?
My motion is to amend
The RTA bus service
RTA bus
by
service
increasing it
by increasing
$5,000.
$5,000.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor for the RTA bus to be increased by $5,000. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Who seconded that? Mr. Sneed? Thank you. Any discussion? No discussion? Call the roll, please.
Head,
Yes.
Trotter,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Gregg,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
pass 6-0.
Thank you. Okay,
Okay, the second one is the decrease in dispatch services of $18,019.
okay.
Let me make that motion.
Second.
Motion was made quickly and second quickly of a decrease. Any discussion? No discussion, call the roll, please.
Trotter,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Gregg,
Aye.
pass 6-0.
Okay. And the third request by Ms. Holt.
The library, and that's to decrease it $14,600.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion on the floor to decrease the library. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Sneed,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Gregg,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Schneider, Trotter,
Aye.
pass 6-0.
Thank you. Any more discussion, Mr. Sneed?
About the budget.
Okay,
Gene, I was in your office today talking about the road in front of West Side School. Were you able to get anything? You need to make a motion to try to work
Well-
on that this year?
I think that we ought to, instead of, for one thing, I think the board would need to approve it, and we need to really study it to see about taking over the road. But I think that if we take the road over, and Mr. Ellis can correct me if I'm wrong, then possibly we could use some of our street aid funds for that, and we have over $900,000 budgeted for various
How much?
project, 970,000 or something like that.
I'll try to add that to the agenda toward the end of the meeting.
But I mean, I think there would be enough in there to cover it.
A couple other things, the $100,000 for the airport parking lot, that's in the budget. Traditionally, from my experience, any kind of new expenses like that, just like the initial $500,000, it was something that we could discuss and debate. And funds were asked of this board in I think in a kind of a way that was less than what they really needed. And then it was discovered that wasn't enough, and just before the meeting, it was up to $350,000 from $150,000. And we didn't approve that. So this board has on record not wanting to give any more money to the airport board. We told them $500,000 is what they could use in their budget. The county gave them $500,000, and they spent $2.7 million. So the airport board or our appointees, they're volunteer. They spent $1.7 million more than what the city and the county initially appropriated to them to talk to an architect. I don't see how you can slip between the pages of the budget something that's buried in here like that. That should be a line item, separate, discussed on its own, because this board's already gone on record, like I said, we didn't give them more money. We told them what the budget was, they ignored it, did what they wanted, and I don't think that should be in our budget.
I believe as a board, we talked about them coming back for the parking lot, if I recall, last
Okay,
year, and
well,
told them to submit it for next year's budget, which is the one we're voting on
Right.
tonight, if
Well-
I remember correctly.
Well,
That's correct.
there's, my opinion is they've already got a parking lot that's next door. I don't, that $100,000 is a lot of parking lot. The road that's in front of West Side School, just to resurface it, we figured it would be about $22,000 and go from Alsop Drive to Pitt Lane. That's a lot of surface area. What are we getting for $100,000? I mean, really? I mean, I just don't see that much traffic out there.
Okay, last year, when the airport board came back to the city and the county for additional funds, the city, you all said, no, you weren't going to. And of course, the county, through the Economic Development Board, did come up with additional funding. And at that time, it was stated that possibly we could look at some in-kind assistance for the parking lot for the new terminal, which there is a grassy field there. So this 100,000, actually, I think the estimate was closer to 160,000 because the grading, the drainage, and all the work that has to be done. But there is money in the CIP that we just need to get it moved up, grant money that the state will pay for a big portion of this. So that I'm not looking for $100,000 that the city of Springfield would be spending for the parking lot. I really think that the state, if we can get it moved up in the CIP, that they will, the grant will pay
Yes,
for it.
yes, but that CIP money could go to something else besides this as well, correct?
Well, that's what it's allocated for, but if they need it and they want a parking lot and they're gonna
That's
do
a
it.
lot of parking lot there. I just don't see it.
Well-
They've got a huge building out there, way more than I thought they'd ever need. This started, just like all of these government projects, they start out, we're gonna build a new terminal, we give them $1 million, and it just mushrooms into something enormous. I just don't see it.
Of course, the state gave a lot of money towards the building too, so.
Well, that's another issue that the board I've already talked to about, that they get multiples, they get so much money a year, and if you can ask and get several years in advance, you can do that. We've done that on some other kind of funding that we have, get multiple years in advance for a project now. But their operating costs where they were relying on those funds each year are not gonna be there in the
Right.
next coming
But this
years.
is
There's
capital.
gonna be a problem. They're gonna come to us and ask for more money.
Well, they haven't yet. And
Well, I've been
someday they may, and the board, the city and the county
Well,
would have to pay. but-
I've been waiting on public records requests, something very simple, for 3.5 months. Multiple requests, and I have not got those public records. And until they give records, I'm not voting for anything towards
Okay.
Okay.
them.
Other discussion, please. Gentlemen?
I'm gonna play hard line, but I have to concur with Mr. Sneed. We want stuff produced, instead of just hearsay.
Okay. And I know that I was at the last airport meeting, and I know our Assistant City Manager, Ryan Martin, has been at all of those meetings since you came on board. And Ms. Holt, our City Manager, has been at those meetings, and they are overseeing to make sure that our dollars are being spent correctly. Any more discussion? Okay, if there's no more, Mr.
They're
Hubbard?
allowing us to give them guidance on budgetary things.
Well,
Ms. Holt,
we'll let
Pardon?
Ms. Holt answer that.
I'm sorry, what was the
are they
question?
allowing us to give them some guidance on budgetary?
Are they allowing us?
Yes.
Is the airport board?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, yes.
She was answering questions at the meeting. Mr. Martin wants
Because
to.
this board and the county commission have to approve their budgets. And they have not asked for any money for operating funds in years. And so even with the amended budget that's on here later on in the agenda, they are not asking for additional funding. Now, we have our two appointed city board members, and they are representing you all, the city of Springfield, and they seem to be doing a good job. So your voice is through them, and then the three others that are joint appointments, you have, the three others that are joint appointments, they're your voice as well.
Okay. Other questions?
Well,
Mr. Sneed?
one more question. There's $100,000 in here for that parking lot. Does that have to come back for us to approve, or if they ask for it, you're just gonna give it to them because we approved it in the budget?
It's in the budget.
It's in the budget, and we would have to bring it back to you because it would probably be less than 100,000 anyway.
Okay. I'm through.
Okay. Other discussion, questions?
We can change the budget on third reading about that little road out in front of the school that's got full of potholes.
Yes.
County won't pay.
Mr. Head?
Is that an absolute that would come back to this board before it would be?
Yes, if we're appropriating the funds for the parking lot, it would be bid out, and we would come back, because the city's paying that part.
And we would have to make sure that it was done correctly.
Well, we approved the airport's construction too, and it was bid out, but when I read the 60-something pages the architect wrote to the contractors for them to bid on that project, it purposely omitted things so that it would be under a certain dollar value, knowing that they'd have to come back and get more money. And if it was, when they opened the bids, it was written in there to the contractors, it wouldn't take effect until 60 days later, making sure that we're gonna approve it. It was pretty odd, very odd.
Well, Mr. Brewer is our inspector, and he's attending all the construction meetings, and I don't believe they've asked for any change orders after the initial contract, have they? No.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, I'm going to ask for the roll call as amended. Everyone understand what they're voting on? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter. Schneider.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you. 2.4, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-11 on a second reading, ordinance rescinding ordinance 18-14 in its entirety and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield water system. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Questions? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you. 2.5, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-12 on a second reading, or ordinance rescinding ordinance 17-08 in its entirety, and setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield wastewater system. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions? Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you. 2.6, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-13 on a second reading. An ordinance setting a new schedule of rates and charges for the Springfield stormwater system. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, gentlemen? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
2.7, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-14 on a second reading. An ordinance amending the schedule of fees and charges for the play at the Legacy Golf Course by rescinding ordinance 18-07 in its entirety and substituting a new schedule of fees. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Passed 6-0.
Thank you. 2.8, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-15 on a second reading. An ordinance amending the City of Springfield Department of Utility Service practice policies. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
Move to defer till next month. I mean, move to,
Second.
not defer, but postpone. Postpone's different than defer.
You want
Postpone till next
postpone?
month.
Postpone.
Well, postpone this till next month.
Okay? And Mr. Hubbard, did you second that?
I thought it was gonna be for discussion, but
We can, I guess we could, I guess, can
Would
we
you
discuss
rather
the
we
postponement?
defer?
or-
postpone?
He is asking,
Yes, you may discuss a postponement at the time, which you may.
we're discussing the postponement.
Yes, so it's on the floor?
Did we get a second? Did Mr. Hubbard second?
Give me a second.
Okay.
Mayor,
Sir.
Honorable Mr. Hubbard, appreciate your second on this. There's some issues that have been brought to light about some of the the service charge deposits that we may want to address that would make it more palatable to longtime customers, that some of the rate fees. In addition to that, the study for the insurance for paying for the water leaks. When people request, I've had a water leak, I got a plumber to fix it, and they come in and they would request a reduction. From my experience, as I told you last month, there's an insurance policy that if you pay $1 a month, and what I figured out on the number of customers and what we've been paying, $1 a month, you could request 25%. It's like $12 a year for an insurance policy. You could get 25% off of your excess for your water leak for that month for a 12-month calendar year. And then if you pay, you can up it to $2 a month, get 50%. And that would more than cover our costs that we've been eating for years. And just see where, you know, of course, any insurance program that gets started, if it doesn't work out, you can change it. Working at the union, we sell insurance to union members, and we've had policies that do well and cover themselves, and if they don't cover themselves, we cancel it and we don't offer it anymore. But that's something for the water, wastewater that I'd like to do. And in addition to that, I'd like to do something about the initial, the incentives for solar. Mr. Gardner, I know you may have something to say about this. I haven't talked to you, but a lot of utility districts give incentives because they want you to use solar. It's very expensive to go 100%. And with the minimum amount that we charge just to have electricity, for example, the building that I'm remodeling out on Batts Boulevard, water, sewer that I'm being charged right now, and I don't even have a bathroom, and electric, it's $122 a month, and I never use any. That building, if I use foam in the walls and insulate it well, I mean, you could heat the building with a light bulb. And the way it was built and the way it's going to be insulated, you could put a few solar panels on it. But the price of solar panels have come down a lot. And if you do it before the end of this year, you can get 30% credit off your taxes. And if you starting after January 1st, it drops down to 25%. And then it phases out in 2021. So there's a short window that you can get federal credits. And if we continue charging the full rate for a minimum, like on the electricity of that building, was about $55, $60 if you don't use anything? I think that's right.
One place in here it says that contractors are not charged for services not being used
That's right.
if it's in the name of the construction company.
Right.
Everything is charged when it's set up in the owner
Right.
or occupant's name.
Well, I'm looking at the minimum. No electricity being used is $25 a month. It's the sewer and water that makes it so high. But we've got a lot of bills on that. But on the electric, I'd like to give an incentive to offset that minimum to help with anyone who would want to go with solar. So that's part of the service practice policy I'd like to change, maybe bring back next month.
Okay.
Do, individually, we could look at them individually.
Other, Ms. Holt?
We have been looking at the insurance policy. As a matter of fact, Mr. Crane has talked to several different utilities, and some of them use it and some do not. Some of our questions, and that's okay because he doesn't have all of his research finalized, but one question is whether we could force people to have to opt out so that we would be taking care of everything and saying it's like a mandatory thing, you can opt out, or if they can opt in. But Mr. Crane, you may want to address this, but I think there were some positives to it. It would help us as far as the money that we get back. So I think it's got some potential, but it is a little more work, but it may be worth it.
I talked to Servline.
I don't think that's on.
Yeah.
I talked to Servline, which is the company that does this insurance, and the salesman.
It's still not on. It's still not on.
It's not on.
It's not on.
Hold on.
Ms. Holt, while he's getting his microphone ready, if we self-insured, the figures I
Here we go.
I quoted was something we could self-insure and would cover the history of our losses. Why would we want to bring in a third party to make that a profitable, because we take care of our own utilities. Why do we need a third party to handle the insurance?
This is just research.
Well, this is, absolutely, it's research, but I'll let Mr. Crane explain it. It is a little more work, and there would be some more liability, but.
It basically is an insurance product, and I talked to 2 or 3 other utility districts like East Montgomery and Second South Cheatham, and Pleasant View said they knew about the program, but they elected not to do it. East Montgomery said they elected not to do it, but they may reconsider it later. I talked to a system in West Tennessee that said it's the greatest thing since sliced bread for them. I did an analysis on the amount of adjustments we've done in the last 12 months, and we have adjusted approximately $39,000 off of water bills, and that doesn't count sewer that we've adjusted to go along with it. That's about 0.5% of our billing for that same period. Now, with this Servline product, they handle the adjustment. The customer doesn't come into your office to get a water adjustment. They go to, I think, a website, and they file a claim, and that company, Servline, pays us, the utility, the whole amount of that bill, overage and all. So it would increase our collections. I mean, we would not lose any money as far as water adjustments are concerned.
Okay.
But they're a for-profit company, and
Yes.
if we do it ourselves in-house, and we see that, like any insurance company who underwrites, if they're not issuing more than 50%, like say State Farm Insurance Company, they take in $100 million in premiums. If they look at that, and if they've spent in claims under 50 million, half of that, or 50%, that's kind of where they adjust their rates. If we do this policy ourselves, and we see that our checkbook in that fund is going up, then we could reduce those rates. A private company would not likely do that.
Okay, well, let them finish their research. Our motion on the floor right now is to defer.
Okay, for the
To
policy. There's
yeah.
a further discussion about the policy on the offset of the electric for the solar. If you can remember, we were, three of the members on this board were willing to tax or use the utility funds for the garbage collection to subsidize recycling. And it was proven through the pilot program that the recycling cost about $1,400 a ton, is what it costs, $1,400 a ton to collect what we recycled in that pilot. And we pay $30 a ton for disposal. But 3 board members were okay with that. So if we were okay.
Back to our motion to defer.
If we were okay with that, then I can't see a good argument against offsetting solar.
Okay. Discussion on the floor is about deferring, postponing till next month. Any more discussion about that? Call the roll, please.
Trotter,
Yes.
Hubbard,
Yes.
Head,
Yes.
Schneider,
Aye.
Sneed,
Yes.
Gregg, passed 6-0.
Okay. Ms. Holt, our city manager, has a question for us.
I think I need some clarification for next month on the solar part. What are you wanting?
I've
us to
got a
come
lot,
up with?
I've got just reams of stuff over here. I'll have to get with you and just, you look online and there's just a lot of programs for this. There's utilities, especially out west.
Okay, so you
They
just want
really
to
want you
implement
to
a
use
solar.
this. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Moving on to 2.9. Discuss and possible take action on Resolution 19-15, a resolution to appoint a department head to the Business Conduct and Ethics Committee. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. And that person is Assistant City Manager Ryan Martin, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
I read this earlier in the week, so I hope I'm correct. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Sneed. Hubbard.
Aye.
Bragg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Schneider. Trotter.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
2.10. A, discuss and possible take action to approve a sole source lease purchase agreement for 36 Taser X2s from Exxon.
Exxon.
Enterprise.
I'm trying to buy gas. Enterprise, Inc. of Scottsdale, Arizona. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr.
Chief.
Hubbard.
Tell us why you want this.
Our chief, Jason Head, is coming to the mic to answer questions.
Okay, I think we bought, the initial ones we bought about 5 years ago, 6 years ago maybe now, 2012. Wow. A lot of them are falling apart. We haven't replaced very many of them. It's the same company. They were Taser. They changed to Axon. Unfortunately, they have a pretty good business model right now, and to buy them straight out would be a little bit more costly than the program that they're offering. And this would be, we purchased these in roughly about 5 years. We have some maintenance agreements with them, and you get cartridges for the training and the things like that. There are not any other really reputable companies out there besides Taser and what we went with in 2012. So there's not a lot of options. I don't think we want to revert back to not having them. That would be something, a decision you all would make. But we have a little bit more information if you want Captain Leonard to talk about some of the ins and outs that she's discussed with the company. Yes, sir.
My statement to you is I would much prefer using the taser when it's feasible instead of putting a bullet in someone.
Yes,
okay?
I don't think we're at a point where we want to go back
And
without
that's what
having
I'm
them.
saying, so I'm hoping it would work, okay? I know and I trust our department, we have made very reasonable calls and stuff, and so I don't keep on the same.
I wish there were other options out there with this company, but they're not. That we've reviewed it, we've talked about it extensively for a few months, and we've put it off to the point where we need to pretty much replace all of them. And this company's just got a very good business model, and there's nothing we can do with them. So.
I just didn't realize we'd had them that long.
You got
I
my
remember
vote.
when
They
we
came in about
voted to do them,
We have scrutinized this
2010,
a lot.
2010,
yeah.
around there.
2012.
2012.
2012, I know.
Other questions, Mr. Snead?
Can I make an amendment that we need to test these tasers and all the board members'
No.
experience a tase before we approve this?
No, sir.
You go first.
Mr. Steve, let us leave policing and police work for qualified.
It's practice.
I'll make an
form.
amendment that Mr. Sneed just be a tester alone.
Hey, I'm tough. This skin is really tough.
I don't think anybody sitting up here on this as alderman want to be tased.
I'm too old. I'm 72, and that's my heart problem take that. So
Other questions while the chief is at the podium? Mr. Sneed gave us a good laugh. We'll go back and ask you, Mr. Sneed, if you want to be tasered. Any other questions?
One
Call-
positive thing with it is we do get a maintenance agreement with it too, so which we didn't have that in the past with them, so.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Sneed. Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, B, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 19-16, a resolution authorizing the execution of the lease purchase agreement for Axon Enterprise, Inc. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Goes along with A. No questions?
Comment.
Yes, sir,
I was
Mr.
in
Hubbard?
Knoxville yesterday, and I sort of looked at those TVA reactors, and I got an attitude.
Okay. Any more questions? Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
3.1, discuss and possible take action on the adjustment of the retail electric rates from the Springfield Electric Department due to a wholesale fuel cost adjustment by the Tennessee Valley Authority. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner?
Got a 1.2% increase this month.
Okay. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
3.2, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments of the monthly gas rates of the Springfield Gas Department. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Scott? Do you have good news or bad news?
Good news.
Good.
The
Mr. Gardner, you can take note.
The purchase gas adjustment is down 3.65%.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions? We better vote fast. Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head. Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
Thank you. 3.3, discuss and possible take action to approve the offers on the surplus property acquired via the delinquent tax sales. Do I hear a motion to
So
discuss?
moved.
Second.
Thank you. Gentlemen, questions? Discussion? No discussion? Call the roll, please.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
Thank you. 3.4, discuss and possible take action on the appointments and the reappointments to the following boards and commissions. Park and Recreation, Mark Hollingsworth at large. Library Board, Sharon Hardgraves, City. Library Board, Paul Nutting, City Regional. Planning Commission, Board of Mayor and Alderman appointment for a 2-year, oh, we gotta do that one. We gotta do that in separate, don't we?
Can I make a motion?
Okay, let me finish reading. Appointment for a 2-year term beginning July 1st, 2019. Alderman Sneed is currently serving in this position. Do we have a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. Sir?
To give the experience to all the board members who have been on the planning commission, and with that statement, I nominate Mr. Gregg.
Second.
Mr. Gregg for the Planning Commission, I assume?
Planning commission.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to appoint Mr. Gregg to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Was it, point of order, Mayor? There's,
We
you know,
need-
second nominations, there's usually no discussion, but, Ms. Gregg, are you up? Do you want to do this job?
I think I can.
Okay, motion on the floor. Should we have not separated these out?
Yes.
I think I've done this wrong from the get-go. Okay,
We have a motion to discuss, and now you have a motion to address.
The planning.
So I think we're okay. We'll just take them each individually now.
each individually.
Yes.
Even, okay, parks,
We have the motion to discuss,
Okay.
But now there'll be a motion, you have a nomination, you'll need a motion for nominations to seats, then you will vote.
On the whole package?
No, you'll
Each
vote on-
one.
On each one individually.
Okay. All right.
Because you nominate specifically for the planning commission, Mr. Gregg has been nominated. So we'll start with the planning commission and take that, and then we'll move through.
Are there any other discussion on the planning commission? There's one nominee on the floor. Someone has to close.
Move that the nomination be closed on Mr. Gregg.
Okay?
Second.
All right. Now we'll go individually. Parks and Recreation Board, Mark Hollinsworth. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Gregg.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
Library Board, Sharon Hargraves. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Head.
Yes.
Trotter.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
Library Board, Paul Nutting, City Regional. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Trotter.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Pass 6-0.
Thank you. Planning Commission. Our nomination was Mr. Gregg. Any discussion?
The discussion, the comment I have to make. Over the years, when we nominated someone and they said they would want to be on it, we don't ask them if they're up to it. If they accept it, understand it, then we go ahead on it and vote on it.
Okay?
That was.
I didn't hear anything about him accepting.
Okay, gentlemen.
Vote, please.
Ready to vote.
Call the roll, please.
Sneed.
I got confused. What was this one?
Mr. Gregg. Commission. Planning.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Gregg.
Abstain.
Head.
Yes.
Schneider.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Pass 5-0 to 1.
Mayor,
Yes, sir. Mr. Sneed.
may I make a comment that I don't know if there's any other general contractors on the board. I thought my experience, having been in that and done some of the developing, I thought that was pretty experienced. I didn't know if he had already agreed to it. I didn't hear him say that. I don't know if you just put it to him if he wanted to do it or not, so I just thought I'd ask.
Okay, thank you. 3.5, discuss and possible take action on a request from Alderman Sneed to synchronize certain traffic lights to flash during certain hours. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
Motion, Mayor, move to postpone indefinitely.
A motion to postpone indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the postponement indefinitely? Call the roll, please.
Schneider.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Trotter.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Gregg.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 6-0.
Thank you. 3.6, discuss and possible take action on the amendment for the 2019 budget for the Springfield Robertson County Joint Airport Board. Do I hear a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Questions, discussions, Ms. Holt?
Okay, the amendment that is before you, as I mentioned earlier, they're not asking for any funds, additional funds from the city or the county, and it's just the operating budget. And there were 3 line items that they increased. The airport board had a meeting last week on June 12th, and they approved it. The county commission will also approve this amended budget. And it was increasing the total expenses $31,600. And it is for legal fees, the airport manager, and $2,100 for liability insurance. And that's for this fiscal year that ends the end of this month. So it's an existing current budget.
And I would like to stop and pause right here and say thank you for Mr. Marvin Smith for serving for 29 years representing the city of Springfield on that board. We recognized him at that meeting, and I just want to publicly let everyone know that he has given back on that board time and time again for 29 years. So we thank Mr. Marvin Smith for his dedication to that board.
Mayor,
Sir.
this being on the table, I'd like to discuss this airport board budget request.
Yes, sir.
As I stated earlier, I've got records requests for the details of what they're asking us to approve tonight. And you can say that we're not giving any money for this, but then that's just a shell game when we've got $100,000 in the budget for something else later on. We're still providing
Capital outlay.
hundreds of thousands of dollars, and just because it's with these words out beside it and not these words doesn't mean that you can't move the money around where the things that they don't think that we'd approve outright and can be used by these funds and short that funds and come back with something more popular and ask us. It's a shell game.
Well, this is operating and not
I've been asking
capital.
for records for the specific things that you've asked us to approve tonight for 3.5 months. And it's like this every time I try to get into
And you've been asking.
providing my job as elected official, providing oversight over our appointees. And
You've been asking Mr. Richard or?
Mr. Richard.
He's
and
not our appointee.
He's the
county
designated
custodian.
records coordinator for the airport board by his own admission. Now, there again, I asked for the board minutes of where that happened, and that hasn't been produced.
Okay.
But that's where you ask for records, and the new secretary treasurer that took Mr. Marvin's
Guthrie.
place, Edison, when I sent the request to him when he came on board, he referred me to Clyde Richard. Bottom line is, before I approve just a blanket line item for legal fees, I'd like to know where they're going, because I've already sent a letter to Edison letting him know TCA code 4252004A, funds that the airport has to go towards the airport and not toward anything else. And they're wanting, I think there's some legal fees that we shouldn't be paying. I just want to make sure what these are for.
Okay. Other discussion? Any other questions?
I'll address the legal fees.
Yes, ma'am.
Are because the board, the airport board was not covered in the lawsuit, and they were performing their duties as board members. So therefore, that's why there are legal fees, and that's why the additional $17,000 is included in there.
I know you're advocating for Ms. Holt. I appreciate you going out of your way to try to get this for them, but you represent the city, not the airport board.
I did not come up
And
with these amounts.
TCA code 42230, and this is something I sent to the board also, Edison, that if you are a board member and you're acting in the official capacity as that board member, you can't be sued. You cannot sue an elected official, one of us, if we do our official duty, and likewise for that board. And if they've done something privately, which brought a private lawsuit, which I'm not an attorney to say whether it is or not, but I've read the lawsuit.
I believe they sued the board.
They sued
correct?
the board, they sued the city, they sued the county, and they sued one individual on that board.
Who was the
individual.
chair?
And there was no motion by that board to approve retaining a legal services by that individual, and there's been no motion to approve the payment of those legal fees. And I just stated a statute that if they were doing whatever they were doing in their official capacity, then they were immune from a lawsuit. So there
I
was
don't
an
think the
expense.
judge ruled that way, if I remember correctly.
You don't sue individual elected officials or
Okay.
board members.
our city attorney, Ms. Barty.
You can sue the board, but not the individuals.
You can sue an
You can,
individual.
but you can sue a hot dog, but
You're absolutely right.
But
Anyone can be sued for anything on any given day, but you all can be named individually in a lawsuit. I'm not saying that that is proper, but you can, and there are still costs associated with that defense of a board member individually as legal fees.
okay, well, when an individual goes out without board approval, retains an attorney and runs up costs before it's approved, that's not something the board approved. It's not retroactive to come back and say, hey, I got this lawyer a while back, here's the bill for it. You need to get that approved up front if it's something the board thinks they need to do, or if it's even in their line item, which it was not. And this is what they're asking us to do now, blindly. And I've been asking for those records for months. I don't know what we're approving. We're just approving $17,000, and that's just a small portion of what these legal fees are. I know I've been at the meetings. I've heard figures bigger than this. This is just what they're asking us to come up with. I don't know if the county's coming up with something in addition or doubling this. Does the county ask?
We're not
This is the airport board paying this. This is
We're not
not
paying
the
this.
city
Okay.
or the county. And when the budget was approved, it
Right.
was last summer, and there were no mention whatsoever of a lawsuit. So that's why this had to be
But
amended.
you're not following me. I've already discussed, you can move money around in the shell game and say, these popular things we'll ask the board for, but we'll take the unpopular things and put over here in this line item. They got
We're
one- they got
watching
one-
to
they
make
got
sure
one
there are no shell
checkbook.
games.
There's one checkbook. They can move the money, whatever they want in that line items.
Okay, but that's the Springfield Robertson County Joint Airports, what they are appointed to do. Tonight, we are asking for their budget to be approved.
Yes, ma'am.
We're not spending money here. in
They're
this.
asking us to approve a budget when one of the members on this board who takes an interest in what they do has
To
not
watch out for this
has not
board.
received the legal invoices for what they're asking us to pay for. Now, why would they do that?
Okay, other discussion?
Comment.
Sir?
Voting against this would hold up our budget process. I'm asking.
It wouldn't hold up our budget process at all because it doesn't affect our budget, this. This is the airport
money.
board's budget. It means that the airport board could not pay for the liability insurance that they just had to get, which they have not had. It means that they
Objection,
couldn't pay
objection,
for
Ms. Hall.
the airport manager, which has been hired, who hasn't been paid anything yet. So that's what this is. This is
It
so
would-
that the bills can be paid up to June 30th of this year.
It would stop the Springfield Robertson County Joint Airport, they cannot operate, correct?
That is not correct. They are not going to close their doors
Mr.
if we
Snake.
don't do
Sir,
this.
point of order. They were.
Okay, hold up.
No, my question was directed toward you all, and so you're out of order for
Okay.
trying to impede on my time.
Let's-
That's what I'm saying.
Let's
okay?
pause for a second and ask Ms. Barty if that's correct. Is it,
If we do not approve their amended budget, it would be the same as if we did not have a budget or the federal government did not have a budget, and they would be effectively in a shutdown.
Point of order, Mayor.
sir?
Ms. Barty, have you been going to the airport board meetings?
We don't
No,
pay
sir,
her.
I have not.
Have you kept up with any of the records where they have been approving payments and authorizing payments from the money that they have in their checkbook, in their account, that they've been making appropriations for things that's not on their line item? This is all retroactive stuff that's already been paid for. A lot of the stuff's already been paid for.
Okay,
They're
let
not
me-
They're not operating down there right now for the last 2 weeks without liability insurance.
We
They're
have
just
not-
now asking us to pay for it. How'd they get that policy if it wasn't paid for?
Okay, pause.
Go around.
We have not asked our city attorney to attend those meetings.
I didn't need her to. I mean, I've got ears and I can go myself and I can hear what they say. It's not that complicated.
I think you just asked her the question if she's attending the meetings. We have not voted to send her to those meetings to pay her.
Right. Okay.
I wanna make
wasn't
that
implying She
established.
should. I'm just trying to make the point. She's coming to us with a position and she hasn't been going to the meetings.
No, we're just, I think the question was, we were just asking what would happen if we don't vote
That's
for
a
this tonight?
hypothetical. That's hypothetical.
Well, if we turn this down tonight, it's not hypothetical.
You stated that if we turn this down, they're gonna close their doors, and that is not gonna happen.
Ms. Barty?
I believe that they can, because we have not approved a budget. I'm not familiar with what the county status of that is, but if they don't have a budget, just like if we don't have a budget, we don't
They've got a
operate.
budget where they're asking us to amend. They have a
They have an
budget.
existing budget, they would have to stay with the funds that they have in the current budget, and they wouldn't have the 31,600.
I'm asking for the records I've wanted for 3.5 months before I give them any latitude to do anything else with the funds that they have. I don't think that's that complicated to do or ask of our appointees. They're there because of us. If I ask our appointees questions, I expect answers. If I want them to perform their duties without offending so many people as they have and being as rude as they have to me when I've been at the meetings, because I'm just there inquiring about the lawsuits and all the things that are going on, apprising myself of these things so I don't hear it secondhand,
Nope.
then I don't think that's too much to ask. Get the records, then we'll approve what you want to do with these funds.
Okay. Other discussion?
That's got a good point. If he's entitled to those records, just like any other citizen has requested those, then he should be given those records in a timely manner. Period.
I'm going to try to run down the legal invoices that he asked for.
By the third reading.
Mayor, I've reported this to the Open Records Council in Nashville 2 months ago.
Okay.
They all got letters about this. It's official. You need to give the records, and I haven't got them yet.
Okay. Other discussion on this matter? Call the roll, please. Whoa. Slow down.
If we vote on this now, it still has to come back the third time, correct?
No.
No.
This does not. This is
No.
just the airport's budget, airport board's budget.
This is the only reading we will have on this, is tonight. It can be brought back. But there won't be three, it's not an ordinance.
It's the same as when we have expenditures in our budget that are line item expenditures, and we come back and we amend our budget. But the airport board is not required to go through multiple readings. We are required to approve their budget, and now we are approving their budget as amended.
Okay, Ms. Mayor, let's
Yes.
look at what they're asking us to do. Postage, $174. They're gonna close their doors for that. Auditor, $3,800. Is Ms. Moore not gonna do their books? She gets a certain amount every month. She's just going to these extra meetings. Telephone, utilities. We're not gonna cut the utilities off our repairs and maintenance. What are you talking about they're gonna close if we don't do this? The only thing on here of any controversy is legal fees, and I'm wanting the records before you approve it.
Okay. I understand. Mr. Martin?
Just a quick observation. One of the things, Mr. Sneed, that you brought up and Ms. Holt and I have been trying to do is we have an inexperienced volunteer board. So we've been trying to coach them on how to do some things, and this budget amendment is one of those that Ms. Holt specifically helped guide them with because they haven't done that. Now, the legal fees originate obviously from the lawsuit, but what we may not have been pointed out to you may have forgotten that there was a lapse in coverage. So the city, our insurance coverage didn't cover the board. The county's insurance coverage didn't cover the board, and that left them in this lull as the board, and that's why they had to retain their own. And you know this because you were there, but the other board members may
It was an
not.
emergency expenditure. They bought the policy. They are not without insurance. It's an emergency, just like everything else that happens out there. It's not planned, and you say it's an emergency so you can do it. Just like when they ran out of fuel and planes came in there and they couldn't get fuel. I don't know if any of you knew about that, but it
Yes.
happened.
We were
So
informed.
everything's an emergency not an emergency because of lack of planning. Now, don't tell me that they're gonna close their doors because of another emergency or lack of planning. I want my records. I'm tired of the stall.
I can't get you the records.
Well, the lawsuit wasn't planned, and I think both the city and the county, we thought we had coverage for that particular type of incident. And it turns out, and we went to our insurance company's office, and we argued and we labored for that coverage, and we didn't get it. The county did the same. So that was a misunderstanding of coverage. And this this general liability insurance policy, whether or not it's already been paid for, I'm not sure. You were at the meeting when the insurance agent came and presented that. But if it's not, the failure to approve that tonight, as you all know, the airport board has taken over the operation of the airport. So if someone messes up a plane or has some incident, that lawsuit could directly impact the city's purse. So that's why this coverage is necessary. And again, Ms. Holt and I worked with them to obtain that policy.
I make a motion that we approve in their request, line item, insurance liability of $2,100 to make sure that they've got it paid and reimburse them. I'm sure they've already paid for it.
Okay, hold on. You're making a motion for the line item,
Liability insurance of $2,100,
line
just to
item,
satisfy if it's been paid,
okay?
which is
So your motion is to only approve, is that what you're saying?
line item in their request of liability insurance of $2,100. I'm approving their amended budget of liability insurance of $2,100.
Okay,
Minus the 17,000 and the
That's all,
12,500.
that's simple as I'm gonna put it. I'm approving line item liability insurance.
okay. There's a motion on the floor to only approve the $2,100 for liability insurance. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion about this? No discussion? Okay.
I'd be lying if I'd say I'm not confused.
Okay. Okay, so he is deleting the other things that are on
The way I'm reading it is there were only 3 amendments, basically. 3 line items, 17,000 for legal fees, which is brought about, as Mr. Martin said, because there was no insurance coverage to provide the legal coverage. 12,500 for the airport manager who has already started and who has not been paid, and then 2,100 for the liability. So Mr. Sneed, the way I hear it, is saying that he's approving the amended budget only for the 2,100, and they will not get the 17,000, and they will not get the 12,500 for the airport manager.
And he started, was that his first day when we were at that meeting?
He started on June 1st.
June 1st, okay, thank you. All right,
And he has not been paid.
Mr. Gregg. Do you understand now?
I guess.
Okay.
Well, when Congress had a shutdown, there's a lot of people that get paid for about 30 days, but they
Yeah,
still
we're
work.
not gonna go into that.
Yes, sir. Mr. Trotter.
If Mr. Sneed get to pay what he wants, that gonna change anything?
If what now?
When he get these papers he's asking for, is that changing anything? I mean, the
I
lawsuit's still there.
Is that a question toward the mayor or me or?
I just wanna know, is it's gonna change anything?
To
if he
whom
get
are you
papers?
asking the question?
It's just something personal you want.
To whom are you asking the question?
You. I mean, what's gonna change? I mean, your feelings hurt just because you ain't got these papers?
Is that how you feel, Mr. Trotter?
Well, I'm asking you. You're the one that's concerned about these papers that you hadn't got, and that seems to be the point of the subject you're making, that, you know, you gonna hold this budget up just because you haven't got your papers, because they hurt your feelings or something.
If that's the way you feel, Mr. Trotter, that's your
That's the way
opinion.
you feel. I'm asking you.
Don't put words in my mouth if that's how you feel.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer it. I mean,
Gentlemen,
Call for the vote.
okay. You understand what you're voting on now. This motion is for the $2,100 for liability insurance only. Reed, call the row. Call the row, please.
Hubbard.
I think Ms. Barty, hold on, I'm sorry.
So there was a motion on,
Must have been an amendment.
There was a motion on the floor to approve the budget. Now there is a motion to amend the motion. I need you all to vote on the amendment.
This amendment, this is the amendment.
You were voting on the amendment.
Yes. On the amendment that Mr. Sneed has made, and it was seconded by Mr. Hick.
Correct.
Okay?
Did you call my name?
You ready now?
Call the roll, please.
Hubbard,
No, I'm voting against it.
Sneed, Trotter,
No.
Schneider,
No.
Head,
Yes.
Gregg,
No.
fails 2-5. Sorry, 2-4.
Okay? All right, so we're back to discussion of the action on this budget.
Ready to vote?
Okay?
Second.
Schneider,
Aye.
Gregg,
Aye.
Sneed,
No.
Trotter,
Aye.
Head,
No.
Hubbard,
Aye.
pass 4-2.
Okay. Moving on to the consent doc. We have 4 items on the consent doc. You want to take these individually? 4.1,
Move for approval of the whole consent docket.
okay?
Second.
Discussion? No discussion? Call the roll, please.
Head,
Yes.
Trotter,
Aye.
Schneider,
Aye.
Gregg,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
pass 6-0.
Before I call on Ms. Holt, I want to announce that Mr. Alan Ellis has served for 29 years, and tonight is his last meeting.
Regular meeting.
And he will, yeah, he'll be at the third and final, we'll call you. 29 years in Springfield Public Works. He will be having a retirement celebration right here in this room on June 28th from 4 to 6. Mr. Ellis, we are going to miss you. I still have your phone number in here so we can ask you questions, because a lot of that stuff that he remembers is not on paper, it's all up here. When you call, he'll tell you exactly what happened in 2012 to a particular piece of property, and I go pull the documents and it's exactly as he says, and no one else can remember. So we thank you for 29 years of service. You've done a great job, and I want to thank you. Ms. Holt, our city manager's report.
Don't really have much. Don't forget, next Thursday, the 27th at noon, will be our third reading. And then we will have some third readings, so we'll have an agenda. It won't be just the budget, but it'll be quick. And then starting Saturday at Travis Price Park, the district tournament for the 5- and 6-year-old boys and the 5- and 6-year-old girls. It starts at 9 o'clock, I think?
6 o'clock Friday night.
It's 6 o'clock Friday night, okay. And then it goes through the weekend.
Yes.
So if you want to see some action and a lot of families, I guess, out there, go out to Travis Price Park. And just want to echo what Mayor Schneider said earlier. Our thoughts and prayers are certainly with Alderman Harris and his family with the passing of his brother this morning, so.
And if you haven't been out to the splash pad yet, please go out. The hours are from 10 to dusk, 8 to dusk. It is amazing to watch the children just smile and get to play in the splash pad. So go out to Martin Luther King Park and enjoy, and even you adults, all of us can go out and play and have a good time in the splash pad. It's a great addition to the city of Springfield. Our meeting is adjourned.